The focus of world attention has shifted north of Gaza in recent days to the intensifying conflict between the Lebanese militants Hezbollah and Israel, one that's seen the IDF deal a significant blow to the Shia Islamist group on Tuesday and Wednesday. The detonation en masse of pagers used by its members, then walkie-talkie communication devices exploding, killing dozens, injuring thousands more. A threat of reprisals from its leader Hassan Nasrallah on Thursday, the group ramping up its missile attacks on northern Israel. Friday, killing of 2 elite commanders by the IDF, among dozens of people who died in Israeli airstrike in Beirut. And this weekend, one where there have been attacks of Hezbollah rockets reaching further into Israel. Well, let's go in a moment to our correspondents on both sides of the border. First, let's hear from the Israeli leader. Speaking today, this is Benjamin Netanyahu.
In recent days, we have landed a series of blows on Hezbollah that it could have never imagined. If Hezbollah did not get the message, I assure you that it will get the message. We are determined to safely return our residents to their homes in the north. No country can tolerate attacks on its citizens, attacks on its cities. And we, the State of Israel, will not tolerate it either. We'll do whatever it takes to restore security.
Today has also seen the funeral of the most senior Hezbollah commander killed in Beirut's strike on Friday, Irris Makler. Let's go to Beirut. James Andre has been following events, the only broadcast team actually reporting from the funeral. We've also got Irris Makler, our correspondent in Jerusalem as well. Great to have you both on the programme. Let's start with you, James. Bring us up to date with what you've been seeing today and what's been happening.
Yes, well, in fact, we were at the very end of that funeral where, in fact, the body of Ibrahim Akil was taken inside this building, which is the Martyrs Cemetery of Hezbollah in that area, which is called Rabeya, which is Robeiri, which is very much inside the stronghold of Hezbollah in the southern part of Beirut. Now, there were thousands of people, Hezbollah supporters, militants, but also armed people from the movement who were present to pay their respects to Ibrahim Akil. Thousands of people. We saw the coffin go from hand to hand, with everyone trying to actually put their hands on that coffin before indeed the body was taken out of the coffin on arrival, placed in a tomb, and the coffin was taken away as per tradition in the Shia religion. So it was a moment, of course, which was very tense on many levels. We spoke to high-ranking security commanders there at the scene who were telling us that, well, they were rather weary. They admitted that, saying that indeed they were worried that there could be a strike by Israel at that precise moment. They said, this is totally possible. And also what was very interesting is to see that Naim Qassem, who is the number 2 of Hezbollah, who is an incredibly important person in the organization, who was also, it was believed in the very first place, the aim of that strike by Israel a couple of days ago that indeed killed Ibrahim Akil. Well, he actually came out in public for a statement, and in that statement he said that Hezbollah vowed retaliation for these attacks on the movement in the previous days, and also said that for him this was a new phase opening, and I quote, he said, "From now on it is all-out war." So of course that is probably very worrying to a lot of people here in Lebanon.
That's very interesting, especially also just getting that information, being there today, as you say, the only broadcaster reporting from the funeral, watching what was going on there. Irris, just listening to James, one thing that strikes me, James has been talking over the past couple of days about how Ibrahim Akil had been injured in the pager attack. Also, this meeting was going on between Hezbollah officials when they were hit on Friday. There's been more intelligence, more sources coming out on your side of the board, and also from Arabian sources too, about what actually happened in terms of the Israeli operation.
Yes, we're hearing from intelligence sources that this meeting was decided. Hezbollah has acknowledged that it has a problem, so much information leaking every which way. They are holding investigations. They brought someone from Iran to help them with these investigations. So they decided they had to have a meeting of their top commanders, and it turns out that the site for that meeting and the time of that meeting was only agreed on Thursday, On Friday, Israel knew where the meeting was, what time it was being held, and struck at that meeting, along with Ibrahim Akil and Ahmed Wahabi. There were 14 others, so 16 of the top Hezbollah commanders killed in one raid, the information known to Israel. So simply in intelligence terms, this is a huge win. The question, of course, is whether this win can be translated into a military win. You know, we heard from Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah that that Hezbollah was disoriented but not deterred. So the question is whether Israel can turn that into an actual military win and achieve its aims of getting its 65,000 displaced citizens back to their homes in the north.
James, what's your view? Just listening to the intelligence on the Israeli side, what interests me as well is quite interesting about a kind of deja vu here. A lot of analysts picking up on the fact that when there was a significant attack on a previous Hezbollah member, to which Hezbollah continued to fire missiles, almost a rotating pattern every day until they'd worked out a moment for reprisal, revenge, in the words of Hassan Nasrallah. Is that what we're seeing here? The group kind of regrouping itself and continuing to fire?
Well, what was quite interesting in their speech today by Naim Qassem is that he said that what happened in the previous days and this attack by Israel was a blow to the organization, which is quite remarkable that they actually recognize this. This is quite rare. And he said that we were shocked, I quote, but he said, now we're regrouping and we're going to fight back. Now, it is true that you have to imagine how much of a blow this is to Hezbollah, because if you look at the timeline of events, basically, you know, it started with the pager attack in which thousands of people were injured, scores were killed, where a lot of the younger members also of the armed part of Hezbollah were holding these pagers and had basically their hands ripped off and were blinded and are now, you know, recovering from those wounds. On the other hand, the second day at the funeral of those who were killed with the pager attack, well, the radios exploded. So basically the message there from Israel was, we can reach you anywhere and your communications are completely compromised. Then, a couple of days later, you have this meeting, covert meeting, in the basement of a building, which was a meeting between the top brass of Hezbollah's armed forces. That is a meeting that usually would not occur because, of course, they have no communication system. So they had to meet in the flesh. And indeed, Israel demonstrated that they had the intelligence that this was going on and that they were able to strike extremely rapidly in less than an hour, destroying that whole building and collapsing it. Now, massive collateral damage, of course. 45 people were killed, a majority of civilians, but it is, of course, an important tactical win for Israel. And, of course, it has decapitated, to an extent, Hezbollah. But Hezbollah is a very big organization, 45,000 members, according to CIA, 20,000 of which are indeed military personnel who are trained and ready for combat.
Irris, just listening to that, I think one thing, just a brief thought from you on this, the rhetoric from Hezbollah, the kind of planning that James, the intelligence that James was pointing out from an Israeli point of view, I think a lot of people will be listening to the rhetoric used by Benjamin Netanyahu today. What should we read from that?
I think what we're seeing is a game of poker, a deadly game of poker, with both sides upping their bids. So it is an escalation. Neither side yet using its full arsenal, military arsenal. Very strong on the rhetoric, you know, open-ended day of reckoning from Sheikh Naim Qassem, from Netanyahu, we're going to get you, you're going to get this message, you know, if you don't get this message first, we'll repeat it. So there's definitely rhetoric. There is also an increase in the military attacks. And the question is, you know, let's say it's 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. Can they keep it at 5 out of 10 without it exploding into 9 or 10 out of 10? Because if there is a full-scale war with the capabilities that both sides have at this time, the reckoning is that there will be thousands, if not tens of thousands, dead on both sides of the line. And I think for that reason alone, people here, including, when I say people here, Europe, the US, a number of international bodies, including the United Nations, working very hard to see that this does not escalate with the risk of that.
Irris, thank you. Irris Makler, our correspondent in Jerusalem. James, thank you to you as well. Our senior reporter in Beirut, James Andre.